Hello, my name is Dr. Tracy Skaer, and I'm happy to participate in the Reach Out and Read program and provide you with one of my favorite readings from a book I received from my grandmother several decades ago. The book is Grimm's Fairy Tales by the Brothers Grimm, and it was published 75 years ago by Grosset Dunlap Publishers in New York. The chapter I'm going to read today is called Rapunzel. You may know the story a little bit. There once was a man and his wife who had long wished in vain for a child, and at last they had a reason to hope that heaven would grant their wish. There was a little window at the back of their house which overlooked a beautiful garden full of lovely flowers and shrubs. It was, however, surrounded by a high wall, and nobody dared to enter it because it belonged to a powerful witch who was feared by everyone. One day the woman, standing at this window and looking into the garden, saw a bed planted with beautiful rampion. It looked so fresh and green that she longed to eat some of it. This longing increased every day, and as she knew could never be satisfied, she began to look pale and miserable and to pine away. Then her husband was alarmed and said, "What ails you, my dear wife?" "Alas," she answered, "I cannot get any of the rampion to eat from the garden behind our house. I shall die." Her husband, who loved her though, "Before you let your wife die, you must fetch her some of that rampion, cost what it may." So in the twilight he climbed over the wall into the witch's garden hastily, picked up a handful of rampion, and took it back to his wife. She immediately prepared and ate it very eagerly. It was so very, very nice that the next day her longing for it increased threefold. She could not have no peace unless her husband fetched her some more. So in the twilight he set out again, but before he got over the wall, he was terrified to see the witch before him. "How dare you come into my garden like a thief and steal my rampion?" she said with an angry look. "It shall be the worst for you." "Alas," he answered, "be merciful to me. I'm only here from necessity. My wife sees your rampion from the window, and she has a longing for it that she would die if she could not get some of it." The anger of the witch abated, and she said to him, "If it is as you say, I will allow you to take away with you as much rampion as you like, but on one condition. You must give me the child which your wife is about to bring into the world. I will care for it like a mother, and all will be well with it." In his fear, the man consented to everything, and when the baby was born, the witch appeared, gave her the name Rapunzel, meaning rampion, and took it away with her. Rapunzel was the most beautiful girl under the sun. When she was 12 years old, the witch shut her up in a tower which stood in the wood. It had neither staircase nor doors, but only a little window high up in the wall. When the witch wanted to enter the tower, she stood at the foot of it and cried, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Rapunzel had splendid long hair, as fine as spun gold. As soon as she heard the voice of the witch, she unfastened her plaits and twisted them around a hook in the window. They fell 20 ells downwards, and the witch climbed up by them. It happened a couple of years later that the king's son rode to the forest and came close to the tower. From hence he heard a song so lovely he stopped to listen. It was Rapunzel, who in her loneliness made her sweet voice for sound to pass away the time. The king's son wanted to join her. He sought for the door of the tower, but there was none to find. He rode home, but the song had touched his heart so deeply he went into the forest every day to listen to it. Once, when he was hidden behind a tree, he saw the witch come and to the tower and call out, "Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair." Then Rapunzel lowered her plaits of hair, and the witch climbed up to her. If that is the ladder by which one ascends, he thought, I will try my luck myself. The next day, when he began to grow dark, he went up to the tower and cried, Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair. The hair fell down, and the king's son climbed up in. At first, Rapunzel was terrified, for she had never set eyes on a man before. But the king's son talked to her kindly and told her that his heart had been so deeply touched by her song that he had no peace and was obliged to see her. Then Rapunzel lost her fear, and when she asked if she would have him for her husband, when he asked if she would have him for a husband, she saw that he was young and handsome. She thought, well, he will love me better than old Mother Gothel. So she said yes, and she laid her hand in his, and she said, I will gladly go with you, but I do not know how I will get down from this tower. When you come, you will bring a skein of silk with you every time, and I will twist it into a ladder, and when it's long enough, I will descend it, and you can take me away with you to your house. She arranged with him that he should come and see every evening, for the old witch came in the daytime. The witch discovered nothing until Rapunzel said to her, Tell me, Mother Gothel, how can it be that you are so much heavier to draw up than the young prince who will be here before long? Oh, you wicked child, what do you say? I thought I'd separated you from all the world, and yet you have deceived me. In her rage, she seized Rapunzel's beautiful hair, twisted it twice around her left hand, snatched up a pair of shears, and cut off the plaits, which fell to the ground. She was so merciless that she took poor Rapunzel away into the wilderness, where she was forced to live in the greatest grief and misery. In the evening of the day on which she was banished, Rapunzel, the witch, fastened the plaits which she had cut off the hook by the window, and when the prince came and called, Rapunzel, Rapunzel, let down your hair, she lowered the hair. The prince climbed up, but there he found not his beloved Rapunzel, but the witch, who looked at him with angrily and wicked eyes. Ah, she cried mockingly, you have come to fetch your lady love, but the pretty bird is no longer in her nest, and she can sing no more, for the cat has seized her, and it will scratch your eyes out too. Rapunzel is lost to you. You will never see her again. The prince was beside himself with grief, and in his despair he sprang out the window. He was not killed, but his eyes were scratched out by the thorns along which he fell. He wandered about blind in the wood, and had nothing but roots and berries to eat. He did nothing but weep and lament over the loss of his beloved wife, Rapunzel. In this way he wandered for some years, until at last he reached the wilderness where Rapunzel had been living in great poverty. He heard a voice which seemed very familiar to him, and he went towards it. Rapunzel knew him at once and fell weeping upon his neck. Two of her tears fell upon his eyes, and they were immediately grew quite clear, and he could see as well as ever. He took her to his kingdom, and he was received with joy, and they lived a long and happily together. I hope you enjoyed this story about Rapunzel, and continue to enjoy listening and learning to read yourself, or if you do read, reading is a wonderful way to get in touch with some wonderful stories out there that may be lost in some of this internet world that we find ourselves now. Take care all.